Okay, welcome to lesson 3. This should be a much shorter lesson than the previous one. Today we're going to do something called rationalizing the denominator. So, in each of these examples, notice that there's a radical on the denominator of the fraction. And here's a root 6, root 18, root 2. Okay, so I don't want to bore you to death and do a whole lesson on why, but I'll just give you the short answer. The problem is you can't have an irrational number on the bottom of a fraction for it to be in proper form. Because the idea of taking a number like 3 and say divide it by root 6 or root 2, and you're basically saying take this number and divide it by a never-ending decimal number. Now, you and me have calculators, so we say, well, who cares? We can do that. But in mathematics and in computer science, that doesn't work out so well. It causes a real problem. So what we want to do is one little thing. It's basically the same as like in English class, putting a period at the end of your sentence and a capital at the start, just making it look a little bit nicer. All right, so here's how it works. Let's look at this first example here where it says 5 divided by the square root of 2. All right, so to get rid of the square root of 2, all we have to do is multiply it by root 2 over root 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by 1. So we're not actually changing the value here, we're just changing what it looks like. Now think about it. When you multiply the denominator, when you multiply that root 2 by root 2, these here, this times this, what would you get? Well, root 2 times root 2 is square root of 4, which is just 2. So that's our new denominator. So now there's no longer a radical on the denominator. Now there's one on the top, but that's not a big deal in math. Okay, so these are actually pretty easy and pretty quick to do. So let's do the first one here. I'm going to multiply each of these by the top and the bottom, the numerator and denominator, by square root of 6 over 6, which is the same as multiplying by 1. When I do that, on top I have 3 root 6. That's it. On the bottom, root 6 times root 6 is the square root of 36, which is just 6. That's done. So that's called rationalizing the denominator. You made the denominator from an irrational number into a rational number. That's all it takes. Let's do the next one. All right, this has a root 18 on the bottom. Well, we don't want that, so we're just going to multiply the numerator and denominator by root 18. On the top, you're going to get 2 root 18, and on the bottom, oops, I wrote 16 by accident. On the bottom, root 18 times root 18, I don't know what that number is. I don't care because I know it's just going to be 18. Now in this case, we can simplify a little further. Obviously the 2 and the 18, we can divide them both by 2. We get 1 and 9. So now we have root 18 over 9. Done. That's the simplified, rationalized version of that question. The next one, same thing. Let's multiply the top and bottom both by root 2. Now the bottom's easy. Root 2 times root 2 is just square root of 4, which is 2. On the top, though, you have to multiply both the terms by root 2. So first we're going to have 3 times root 2, which is going to give me root 4, and 5 times root 2. All right, so now the 4 here obviously just becomes the square root of 4 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And there's our simplified answer. Can't do anything else with the top. They're not like radicals, so that's it. Again, our only goal is from now on, and this is going to come up a lot in grade 11 and a lot in grade 12, especially in your trigonometry and your trigonometric solutions, we need to rationalize every denominator we see. So anytime we end up in our final answer with a square root on the bottom, all we got to do is multiply the top and bottom by whatever that square root is and simplify it. And that's it. That's the end of this lesson. So try the homework questions from this and follow these steps.